Hi everyone, I'm Karen Murdock, a sports scientist, professional soft tissue body worker, senior clinical lead, senior counsellor and director at BBALS BU. Joining me today is Dr Gillian Wilson, a specialist clinical psychologist who has lectured at university level, has over 20 years experience working within the NHS including CAMHS, family therapy, and is considered a specialist in child health psychology. So today we're going to ask Gillian a couple of questions that parents have sent in to us, and we'd love to hear her answers. So here we go. So first question from a concerned mum. How do I help my 13-year-old with near constant nausea from anxiety each morning before she goes to school?
Hello Karen, well thank you for inviting me along today. I suppose the first thing maybe to say is being 13 is hard. It's difficult growing up and being a teenager. So to a certain extent, feeling anxious about your life can be quite normal at that age. But obviously when it gets in the way of being able to go to school and do the things you want, then that's when, as a parent, you maybe need to think if your young person needs a bit more help. So the first thing I suppose I would suggest would be talking to the young person and trying to figure out what things are causing the anxiety. So is the anxiety related to school? Is the anxiety around relationships and managing maybe being part of a peer group at school? Is the stress around expectations with exams and coursework? Or are there other things that are happening maybe in the family or outside school? So trying to get a bit of a sense of what may be causing the difficulties for the young person, and then thinking about ways that you could help support them. So there's lots of different anxiety management strategies out there, such as meditation, mindfulness. Some cognitive behavioral strategies can work very well as well. I'm trying to, suppose, give them some tools to try and help them manage in those situations. One of the things I find can be quite helpful is actually talking through and practicing scenarios with the young person. So if one of the difficulties is maybe around peer relationships at school, kind of acting that out with the young person and letting them role play different scenarios with you supporting them so that they can find different ways of managing when they're in that environment. Looking at things like with exam pressure or homework, are there practical things that a parent can do to maybe give them more support with particular subjects if they're struggling with those? Or if, say, geography is a particularly difficult area, can you set some time aside to do geography homework at the weekend rather than doing it on a Tuesday night when your child's tired, and where you can give them a bit of support with it and have extra time, and you can maybe go out and do something nice afterwards or go for a walk. The other thing's making sure that your young person has time in the week to just decompress. The school day is a long day. Like for most adults, we go into work maybe at 9 o'clock and we come out at 5 o'clock and we're exhausted by the end of the week. So for a young person who's a teenager and they're studying for exams, they're in school, they're starting at 9, but they're coming home and then they're getting generally a lot of homework to do in the evening. So by the time they're actually finishing up their work, it could be 8 o'clock in the evening. Then their mobile phones maybe going with their mates, texting them and asking them about school or asking them about coursework. They're maybe stressed about that, and then they're trying to switch off and go to bed. And their head is just running round and round with all these things that are going on. So it's no wonder really that our young people will get anxious and our young people will get stressed, because they're living in a very stressful time. And you add in social media and everything else, it's a lot to cope with. So I suppose one of the things is when you're talking to a young person is normalizing the anxiety and saying that actually everybody gets stressed, everybody gets anxious, everybody gets nervous. It's a normal emotion. But when it feels that we can't control it, that's when we need to get some extra help and extra support. Trying to identify the causes of the anxiety and then looking at kind of helping your child build up a toolkit of resources and coping mechanisms that they can use when they're in those environments to help them manage it.
Okay. And at what point would you involve the school? Would you say if this is prolonged, maybe for a week or a fortnight, is there time to step in with the school and involve them, or would that increase the young person's anxiety?
I think it depends a little bit on what is predominantly causing the anxiety. If the anxiety is situation specific, so it's in relation to one thing that's coming up, so maybe there's a big exam, then if you can help support your child through that, the chances are their anxiety would then reduce after that. But if the anxiety is around that they've moved to a new school and they're struggling settling in and they're struggling with their peer relationships, then at that point probably it is worth having that conversation with the school. So I suppose generally my motto is to be proactive with things, because I think it's better to have more help around you even if you don't really need it than to wait until things go into total meltdown. And at that point the young person is unable to even go to school.
Yeah.
Because it's very difficult to come back from that.
Yeah, so you're trying to mediate from anxiety related to school attendance to becomes full-blown school avoidance. Yes. Or school refusal. And at what point would you think, right, this is excelled past where I feel comfortable and I should really step in and say, right, I need to either go to my GP or I need to engage a youth person for counselling? What, you know, when would you think now is the time that this is needing a more specific and driven work through?
So I suppose again, I kind of work on the basis of how much is something impacting in somebody's life. So if a young person is saying that they feel anxious, but they're able to go to school, they're able to maintain their relationships, they're able to do any activities outside school that they do, and they're still fairly engaged with the family, then I wouldn't be overly concerned about that young person. The sort of people that would concern me would be a young person who starts to become very withdrawn and can seem very down. Okay. Or who seems extremely agitated, and where they may be becoming very verbally aggressive, or where they're fighting in school with people, or they're stopping eating. Okay. Or their sleep's been affected, because those are indications that the emotions are getting out of control and the young person's not able to cope with it on their own. So I think if the young person's reporting being anxious but they're still able to maintain their level of what they're able to do, then I would just try and support them with developing some strategies. But if you're noticing those things, those key things, eating, sleeping, social relationships, mood, if you're noticing a deterioration with those things, then I probably would check in with the school and maybe the GP to see about a referral to some other services that may help support the young person. Yeah,
so you would class those key areas you highlighted there as the red flags for needing more professional intervention. Yes. That's fantastic, Gillian. Very informative, and I hope you've find that interesting. And we will touch base again with Gillian very soon.
Thank you.